Joining us now on the John Fredericks Radio Network is Action Jack Wilson. He is the chairman of the Republican Party of Virginia. Action Jack, good to have you, man.
Good morning, John. Happy to be with you today.
Oh,
Jack.
Happy
Friday.
TGIF. Jack, we got so much to talk about today and so little time. So let's get right to it. And I got to get your comments on a couple things. I'm going to start with the Republican rigomania. So let's go to the 97th district, where you got a convention there on Saturday, May 4th at Hanover High School. Scott Wyatt challenging Chris Peace. And Wyatt was your committee chair member in Hanover. He manipulated the system to go to a convention, and then he decides to run against Chris Peace. Don't you think that's like rigomania?
Well, I was a little disappointed in it. I think perhaps he should have maybe allowed somebody else to chair that process, but I don't know that there was anything technically, legally improper, but I think the good folks in that district will understand what's going on and be able to nominate the right candidate there.
Great answer, Jack. Very good. That was very good, Jack. That was a very impressive. I have nothing to say to that. That's really good. Okay.
Well, thanks.
I mean, Kara, what do you say to that, right? He says it was a rigged job, and then he says, I hope the people do the right thing, right? That's what a chairman should do. He's honest. Honesty, Jack, is the best policy. Okay, let's go to GOP rig job number 2 and go to Southwest Virginia when Bill Carrico announces his retirement 30 minutes after the filing deadline. What'd you think of that move?
Well, obviously there was I think folks out there had known that he was looking at stepping down and retiring, so I don't know that it came as a surprise. I think there had been some discussions, but it's important to make sure that we retain that seat. Every seat in the state Senate is very important, and so having a logical succession plan makes sense. I think folks can participate and do the right thing there as well.
Okay, I just got to read you this this text I got from Paul in Mechanicsville. He says, "Hey, Fredericks, you can call me Godzilla, Paul." He said, "You're so uninformed, it is just showing why you have no listeners in Hanover. By the way, you just said you didn't know what counties were involved in your supposed rigging charge. You're so wrong. You have no idea what you're talking about. King William, New Kent, Hanover were all present, and they all voted unanimously to do it this way. If you attended Hanover Republican meetings," no, I don't attend Hanover Republican meetings. I don't do that. "You would know. And if Chris Peoples attended these meetings, they would have heard Scott Wyatt was running. It was announced in the Mechanicsville local as, well, there were 150 people plus at a Republican meeting last night, blah, blah, blah." Look, then why don't you just send out a press release and that could be the end of it, right? So stop whining about what I'm saying, Paul, and your guy didn't send a press release out. Okay, let's move on, Jack. Let's get to this fundraising letter that was sent by the Democratic chairperson of the Henrico Democratic Party, accusing Kirk Cox, of all people, a high school basketball coach, 25-year, right, high school teacher, started his career in Petersburg, where there were not a lot of white people in that high school, accusing him of being a white supremacist. I mean, I can't think of anything I've seen in Virginia more disgusting than that. Can you elaborate on that, Jack?
Well, you're right. It was absolutely outrageous. Again, just so your listeners can get the full picture, basically it was the Henrico Democrat Committee put up on some social media fundraising attempts, and basically what they did is they took about a 7-8-year-old picture of Speaker Cox in the House chamber, his arm on the dais, and his middle or his thumb and his index finger are touching, which, you know, upside down looks like the OK sign upside down. They juxtaposed that next to the violent terrorist who killed 50 people in New Zealand, who at his arraignment was flashing what is now perceived to be a white supremacist hand signal. And so the Democrats were basically suggesting that Kirk Cox was a white supremacist because 7 or 8 years ago, his hand was caught in what they called an awkward position, which, of course, was about 6 or 7 years before that symbol ever became associated with white supremacists. It was just completely outrageous, and we called on the Henrico Democrats, the elected officials, House of Delegate members, to denounce the ad. But what it showed, I think, John, was how desperate the Democrats have become in this legislative cycle election. I mean, they went into this session of the General Assembly licking their chops, thinking that they were ready to take control of the Virginia Senate and the House of Delegates, and then they had their whole statewide leadership go into disarray with blackface and accusations of sexual assault. And now they're seeing the victory that they so wanted slip from their fingers, and they're becoming desperate. And so that was clearly a desperation ploy, trying to find anything on any Republican leader that would hint at the racism that the governor and the attorney general displayed. And they failed. They failed miserably.
So what happened after that? I mean, they were called on it by the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Graham Moonwad did a pretty good piece on it. They were called out on it. They defended it. Then they removed it, right? So it was kind of a backpedal.
But what they failed to do is apologize to Speaker Cox for even suggesting that his actions or his background has any hints of white supremacy. I mean, Kirk was one of the first and strongest critics of what happened in Charlottesville. Kirk has always, as you said, been very friendly with and working with the African American community. Kirk is just a solid conservative Christian man, and to suggest at any hint of white supremacists was just absolutely outrageous. And while the Henrico Committee, under pressure, did take it down, they failed to apologize, and I'm still waiting for that. I still wait for some of the Henrico Democrats in the General Assembly to also denounce it. They all decided to remain silent for the most part. And so, again, it just shows the desperation on the part of the Democrats. They're not going to win the House of Delegates, and they're not going to win the state Senate, and they're just becoming bitter about it. Extremely bitter,
and they are going to lose, and so now they're desperate, and that was a disgusting thing for them to do. And the fact that they don't even apologize because they don't care. You know what? It's all about power. They want to win. They want to raise money. There are three people at the top of the ticket running the statewide office holders. They can't do a fundraiser. They can't go to a meeting. They can't headline anything. They can't be seen with them. So they're running out of money, and so they're trying very desperate things. And it's just what they did to Kirk Cox was absolutely disgusting and gross, and they should be held accountable to that. I mean, if you want to debate the issues, we can go ahead and debate the issues. We can debate third term, trimester, killing babies when they come out of the birth canal. We can debate that. There's all kinds of things that we can debate. But to accuse Kirk Cox of being a white supremacist based on a doctored photo they got in 1987. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous.
It was. Well, and again, what you said, the Democrats don't want to debate the issues because they know that their issues are more aligned with folks in New York and California than they are with the mainstream of Virginia. You mentioned it, third trimester abortions, infanticide, raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, which would kill Virginia businesses and the Virginia economy, trying to trounce all over Second Amendment rights. The Democrats don't want to debate those issues because they're losing issues for them in Virginia. If they tried them in California or New York, they probably prevail on them, but Virginia isn't there yet, and we're going to make sure it doesn't become that way.
All right, you're on the John Fredericks Radio Network. We are with Action Jack Wilson. He's the chairman of the Republican Party of Virginia. They've lost, I think, what is it, Jack? You guys have lost 15 races in a row statewide. So, you've got a chance in 2020 to get off the schneid and win a race. So could happen in 2020. That could be the big one. Jack, but you've got a big event coming up with the Vice President of the United States.
We do. The Vice President of the United States is coming to an event to support both the Republican Senate caucus as well as the Republican House caucus. A big event up in a private residence, location to remain undisclosed for security reasons until people decide they want to go. But I believe it'll be in the Northern Virginia area. It's coming this Wednesday, March 27th. And again, the vice president will be there, and the vice president and the White House, as well as the Republican National Committee, know how important retaining the Virginia Senate and the Virginia House of Delegates will be this November. And so they're doing what they can to assist, and obviously having the vice president come into Virginia to help raise funds so that we can maintain those majorities just shows how much they see it's important that we win this November. So we are encouraging people, if they're interested, to get more information. They can email to, and I'll give you the email address. You may have it already, John, but anybody that's interested in attending this event or getting more information about it can send an email to rsvp@senators4va, and that's senators, the number 4va.com. And so, there are various opportunities, various levels to contribute, various means of contributing. But, anybody who's met the vice president knows how great a person he is, how warm he is, how intelligent he is, what a great speaker he is. And I think he will be a great addition to that event, and really should help draw some great Republicans to the event and help our senators and House of Delegates.
Well, he's a fantastic guy. The vice president, I've been with him many times, and I've introduced him at a number of rallies around the United States. Great guy, and we're happy to have him here in Virginia, raising money for the state Senate and the House caucuses, and in order for them to campaign to maintain control of the two chambers in 2019. So, look, this isn't a free event. Obviously, this isn't just an open rally. It is a fundraising event. But if you are interested in looking at it, we'd love to have you there. And part of the contributors go to RFVP, RF as in Frank VP, at senators, the number 4va.com. That's R, that's F as in Frank VP, at senators, the number 4va.com, and you'll be able to get more information there. Jack, what are your prospects right now, you think, of holding the House in face of the redistricting that came out? I don't believe that's going to be stayed in the Supremes. I believe it's going to be whatever it is that came from Irvine. What are your chances, in your judgment, of maintaining your majority in the House in 2019?
Well, on the redistricting, real quickly, the Supreme Court heard oral arguments on it, I believe, earlier this week or late last week, and we anticipate a decision in June. We're optimistic that new map will be thrown out and will run in the approved map, the map that the General Assembly and the governor signed. But even if that map holds, obviously it'll provide somewhat of a headwind to us. But I think we're still actually looking at picking up seats in the House of Delegates. Fortunately, Kirk Cox wouldn't want me to say it's fortunate that his district was one of the most changed districts as a result of the new map. But Kirk is just a tenacious campaigner, tenacious fundraiser. I think he was out knocking on doors the day after the session ended. So if any delegates' district had to get redistricted as bad as Kirk's did, Kirk is the one to win in it. Chris Jones down in the Tidewater area also is going to face a more difficult district if that map holds. But at the end of the day, I think we're looking at picking up 3 or 4 or 5, maybe more seats in the House of Delegates as a result of what the Democrats did this session in the General Assembly. And as you mentioned, the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the attorney general aren't going to be out campaigning with any of these people. I don't see how any of these Democrats are going to be able to stand on the stage and thank the governor for being there with them when a month or so ago they were calling on him to resign.
Yeah, so, they can't do it. Yep.
I think that really will bode well for our folks in the General Assembly this November.
They're not going to be able to raise any money. I mean, they're going to have to get Tim Kaine and Mark Warner to come in for them, or I guess somebody else. Coupled with the fact now they really can't have any of the presidential candidates coming in, because then if you're not for that candidate, then that hampers them. So all they've got really, the only way they're going to raise money besides themselves is Tim Kaine and Mark Warner. And Warner has his own deal going on in 18 months from now. Jack, I want to get to a question from Amy in Fairfax. Amy says, could you ask Action Jack how his meeting with Tim Hannigan, Fairfax Republican chairman, went?
Have not had that meeting. I was up at a meeting with a week or two ago where some of the other unit chairs from around the area were able to participate. He was not there, so that meeting is still to be scheduled, but it's on both our lists to get it accomplished as soon as we can.
All right. Amy, there's your answer. No meeting yet. I want to thank Action Jack Wilson for being with us. He's the chairman of the Republican Party of Virginia, the Honest Abe of Republican politics. I appreciate, Jack, your candor and honesty. I really do. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Thank you.
That's the way we're going to do it.
Really appreciate it. That's what the Republican Party of Virginia needs. Just somebody to be honest and say, look, don't rig stuff. You want to run for a nominating contest, just run your race. Just file and run. We don't care, but don't try to rig the process of picking the nominee because it just pisses people off. And it is of no value to you, and it hurts your brand, and it's just annoying. So knock it off. Jack, thanks for being with us.